So 20 questions? That game where you have to guess what another player's thinking of. There's a common variation to this game that's out there. Infinite questions. You get infinite chances to guess. Now, you would think that this would be a good thing, but I've seen people choose the most esoteric things for the other players to guess. Like my younger brother once had me guess anti-de Sitter space, which I hadn't heard of before, and he pronounced it like anti-Sitter space without the duh. And but this isn't about that. This is what happened. This is a story about what happened to me a while ago. So the day before, these people in my German class were talking. We're playing infinite questions, and I thought nothing of it, but the next day they invited me to play with them. One of them, for the sake of privacy, I'm going to call him Northwest, based on where he was sitting relative to me. So Northwest invites me to play. So I play with I try to guess, but it's only like a couple of things. I like asked if something's green. I guessed an answer, but nothing really noteworthy until I asked if I could think of something. And of course, Northwest told me that there was that there was another rule that the group had added. It had to be something like physically on your person. But he could tell I'd already invested quite a lot of time into coming up with something. So he asked. He let me keep what I had guessed. So immediately he and his friends started guessing things, asking things like, can you hold it in one hand? And I said no. Does it hurt when you punch it? No, it doesn't. Can you hold it in two hands? No, you can't. Can you hold it at all? No. And then one of them said something along the lines of, good Lord. So I basically just they kept asking questions. I kept saying no, you can't, no, it doesn't have a color, no, it doesn't really have, it's bigger than this room, it's bigger than the solar system, but it's not here right now, but it will be later. And they're most of the people who are trying to guess are just picturing this apocalypse level situation, and Northwest just says, if this is something like extremely simple, I'm gonna be angry. And I just said, I could tell you what it is if you want. And he said, no, don't do that. Because if I find out it's something really simple and you just tell me what it is, I'm gonna be even more angry. So I said, all right, and just had him and the other three keep guessing. So, you know, I ask, no. So, they ask, if it's bigger than, like, they ask, one of them asks, one of them, so one of them, West, not Northwest, the guy sitting behind him, West, asks what grade the average person learns it in. And even though this wasn't a yes or no question, I just wanted to get it over with. So I told him kindergarten, probably. And he asked if he had talked about it before, and I said probably. And then eventually he asked whether it started with the letter A. And I said no. B? No. C? No. D? No. And eventually I just said W. And then they kept guessing things that only half of them started with W. You know, they were guessing like things like the Rapture, Ragnarok, the heat death of the universe. So eventually they started quizzing me about what the second letter was. Was it A? No. B? No. C? No. D? No. E? Yes. So, W-E. One of them, so the guy named East, not his actual name, this is where he was sitting, he asked me if it was like in the fourth dimension, and I said, some people would say it is, and I just made everything worse. So he just so he guesses someone asks if it's 4 letters long, and I tell them no. 5 letters, I say no, and I eventually just tell them it's 9 letters. So and Northwest said it's come down to and Northwest said we're basically just playing I said that they were basically just playing hangman now. So is the third letter A? No. Is the third letter B? No. Is the third letter C? No. D? Yes. And then West, he guesses wedding. I say no. Northwest, he guesses Wednesday. And you know what I said? Yes, in a tearful voice. And he just says, "Are you serious? Are you serious?" Except he didn't actually say that. He said something else, which I'd rather not repeat here. So and then he says to me, I was picturing some apocalyptic level event, and it's Wednesday. I was picturing the second coming of Jesus, and I asked him, should I have gone with that instead? And he said, we're past that now. You put us through torture, and you're just Wednesday. So this happened earlier today, and tomorrow's actually Wednesday, and I'm worried that every single person in that class is gonna call me like Mr. Wednesday guy for the rest of my life, and I'm never gonna hear the end of it. Just like none of those people ever heard the end of that game of infinite questions. So never have anyone guess Wednesday is the moral of the story.